Hello and welcome. I'm very happy you are here today. This video is made especially for people who want to improve their English skills. Whether you are a beginner or at an intermediate level, this story will help you practice your reading and listening. You can follow along with the words and hear how they sound in natural English. In this video, you will hear a simple but powerful story about a boy who grows up in a small village and faces many challenges. The story shows how he works hard, never gives up, and learns important lessons about success and life. As you listen and read, you will learn new words, understand sentence structures, and improve your English speaking and listening skills. Listening to stories is a great way to learn English. It helps you hear the correct pronunciation and rhythm of the language. Reading at the same time helps your eyes get used to English words and phrases. You can pause the video anytime to practice speaking or to check a word you don't know. You can also listen again to hear how sentences flow naturally. This video is perfect for anyone who wants to build confidence in English. It will also teach you important life lessons that can motivate and inspire you every day. So get comfortable. Open your heart and mind and enjoy the story. Remember, learning English is a journey, and every step you take is important. Let's begin together and enjoy this reading and listening practice. Thank you for choosing to spend your time learning English with me today. I hope you find this story helpful and inspiring. Chapter E. A Simple Life in a Small Village. In a quiet village, surrounded by green hills and rice fields, there lived a boy named Zaw. His home was small, made of wood and bamboo, with a roof that sometimes leaked when it rained. He lived with his parents and his younger sister. They didn't have much, but they had each other. His father worked as a farmer, and his mother sold vegetables in the local market. Every morning, they woke up before the sun rose, ready to begin another hard day. Zaw was only years old, but he already knew how tough life could be. He wore old clothes and broken shoes, and he carried his school books in a plastic bag because his family couldn't afford a backpack. No, he didn't complain. He knew his parents were doing their best, and he wanted to make them proud. Every day after school, Zaw helped his father in the fields. He carried water, pulled weeds, and sometimes helped plant rice. His hands were small, but they worked hard. At night, after dinner, he studied by candlelight because they didn't always have electricity. Some days, he was tired. Some days he felt like giving up. But deep in his heart, he held a dream. Zaw dreamed of a better life. He wanted to be a teacher one day. He wanted to help other children learn, especially those who lived in villages like his. He believed education could change everything. It could lift his family out of poverty. It could help his sister go to school. It could make their lives easier. But most of all, it gave him hope. At school, Zaw was quiet but curious. He asked many questions, even when other students laughed at him. He didn't mind. He loved learning. Favorite subject was English. He practiced speaking even when he was alone. He practiced speaking and he would say sentences in front of the mirror, trying to sound like the people he heard on the radio. He believed that if he learned English well, more doors would open for him. But life in the village was not easy. Sometimes the rains didn't come, and the crops failed. There were days when they had very little food. Czar had to walk kilometers to school, and when it rained, the path turned into deep mud. Still, he never missed a day. He wrapped his books in a plastic bag and kept going. His classmates sometimes made fun of him. They laughed at his clothes and his dreams. "You think you'll become a teacher?" they said. "Look at you. You don't even have shoes." But Za stayed. He remembered what his father once told him. "People may laugh at you, but never laugh at yourself. Believe in your dream, even when no one else does." Za listened to that advice every day. At night, when the world was quiet, he opened his books and studied. He memorized words. He practiced reading. He wrote in a small notebook. Even when the pages were full, he didn't know how. But he believed something good would happen if he just kept going. Steeple. His mother noticed how hard he worked. One evening, she brought him a small gift, an old English book she found in the market. "It's not much," she said, "but I know you'll use it well." Za smiled with joy. He opened the book and began reading immediately. It became his treasure. He read it every night, again and again, until he knew every word. Czar didn't have a computer or the internet. He didn't have a tutor or a language center, but he had something many people forget: strong determination. He knew that if he wanted to change his life, he had to start with himself. He had to wake up early, study hard, work harder, and never give up. Each day in the village looked the same: school, farm work, study. But Z believed these simple days were building something great. He believed that one day, all the hard work would make sense. He didn't know when, and he didn't know how, but he knew why. He wanted a better life for his family, his sister, and himself. And so the boy in the small village continued his journey, quietly, slowly, but with a heart full of fire. Chapter R. The first big failure. Za was working harder than ever. Every morning, he woke up before sunrise to help his father in the field. Then he rushed to school, sat in the front row, and listened carefully to every word the teacher said. After school, he studied alone, using his old English book, his small notebook, and his big dreams. He felt proud of his progress. His handwriting had improved. His grammar was getting better. He could read English stories and understand more than before. He even started helping his sister with her schoolwork. Deep inside, he thought, maybe I really can become a teacher one day. At the end of the school year, there was a big English exam. This exam was important. If Zaw passed, he would move to the next level and get a scholarship to attend a better school in the town. That school had computers, real English teachers, and even a library. It was a dream. Zaw studied harder than ever for the exam. He stayed up late every night. He practiced speaking aloud, repeated new words, and wrote short essays. He had never worked so hard for anything before. His mother said, "We believe in you, Zaw." His father smiled with quiet hope. Everyone in the family was excited. Finally, the day of the exam arrived. Zaw woke up early, dressed in his cleanest clothes, and walked to school. With a heart full of nervous energy, in the exam room, he tried to stay calm. He read each question carefully and answered the best he could. Some parts were easy, others were harder than he expected. But he gave it everything he had. When the exam was over, Zaw felt proud. He believed he had done well. He walked home with a smile, already imagining what the town school would be like. He could see himself learning in big classrooms, speaking English with confidence, and someday returning to the village as a teacher. But 1 week later, everything changed. The exam results were posted on the school wall. Students gathered around, pointing and shouting. Zaw pushed through the crowd, searching for his name. He looked once, then twice. His name was not on the list. He had failed. His heart sank. For a moment, he couldn't believe it. He checked again, hoping he had missed it. But the truth was there, clear and painful. He had not passed. The scholarship was gone. The dream school was no longer possible. Everything he had worked for was gone in a single moment. Zaw walked home slowly, carrying a heavy weight in his heart. His mother looked at his face and understood. His father said nothing, but the sadness in the room was deep. That night, Z didn't open his books. He didn't light the candle. He just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Maybe I'm not smart enough, he thought. Maybe the others were right. Maybe I was just dreaming too big. The next morning, he didn't want to go to school. He felt ashamed. He imagined the other students laughing at him. He imagined his teacher feeling disappointed. But when he saw his little sister getting ready, tying her books with a string, something changed inside him. She looked at him and asked, "Will you still help me with my homework today?" Zaw looked into her eyes. They were full of trust and love. In that moment, he realized something important. Bori. His dream wasn't just about himself. It was about his family, about hope, about showing others that failure doesn't mean the end. It just means you have to try again. That night, he picked up his book again. He lit the candle. He opened his notebook and he started studying. He didn't know when the next chance would come, but he promised himself one thing. He would not quit. Failure had knocked him down, but it had also woken him up. It had shown him how much his dream meant. And from that day on, Zaw's heart became even stronger. He whispered to himself, "I failed once. That's true, but I will rise again. I will try harder. I will not stop until I succeed. Chapter 10. Working harder than everyone else. The failure hurt Zaw deeply, but he didn't let it break him. Instead, it woke up something powerful inside him. He had tasted disappointment, and now he wanted success even more. He made a silent promise to himself. From now on, I will work harder than anyone else. I will give everything I have. Zaw began every day before the sun rose. Inked. While the village still slept, he was already out in the fields with his father. They walked through the morning mist, their feet wet with dew, carrying tools and buckets. Zaw helped plant seeds, carry water, and cut weeds. Even though the work was hard and the sun was hot, he didn't complain. He knew his father worked this hard every day just to feed the family. Tom. Z wanted to be strong like him. After the farm work, Zaw quickly washed, changed clothes, and grabbed his books. He had only a short time to eat before he had to walk 5 kilometers to school. The road was rough, and during the rainy season, it turned into deep mud, but he kept walking, even when his shoes got stuck or his clothes got dirty. He didn't care. He had a goal in his heart, and nothing would stop him. At school, Zaw sat in the front row. He listened carefully to every word the teacher said. He took notes, asked questions, and stayed focused. While some students passed notes or laughed at jokes, Zaw kept his eyes on the blackboard. He didn't have expensive books or a smartphone to look up words. Were luck. Mob fall breeze. But he used everything he had, his mind, his ears, his heart, after school, while others played football or rested. Zaw went straight home to help his mother. He carried water from the well, collected firewood, and helped prepare dinner. His little sister followed him everywhere, asking questions and smiling. He always made time to teach her a few English words, just like a real teacher. In the evening after dinner, when the house was quiet, Zaw opened his books. Sometimes the power was out, so he lit a candle. He read slowly and carefully. He wrote down new words in a notebook. He had covered in plastic to keep safe from the rain. He repeated difficult sentences again and again until he understood. He didn't just study English, he also worked hard on math, science, and Burmese. But English was special to him. It felt like a key that could open doors to the world, to new ideas, to opportunities he couldn't yet imagine. Sometimes he was tired. Sometimes he wanted to sleep early. But he pushed himself to stay awake. He reminded himself, if I don't work now, I will stay here forever. But if I try, maybe my life will change. Weekends were not for rest. While others relaxed, Zaw worked even harder. On Saturdays, he went to the market with his mother to help carry vegetables and sell them. On Sundays, he visited the temple, where he asked the monks if he could borrow old books. He read everything he could find, even books with missing pages, even books with words he didn't understand. And when he didn't understand something, he didn't give up. He asked his teacher at school. He asked older students. He repeated the lesson until it made sense. Hi. He didn't feel embarrassed anymore. He knew that asking questions was a sign of strength, not weakness. Over time, people began to notice. His teacher said, "Zaw, you are improving very fast." His classmates, who once laughed at him, now asked him for help. Ooh. Even the village elders smiled when they saw him reading under the tree or walking to school with his plastic-wrapped books. But Zaw didn't let the praise change him. Hey, he stayed humble. He knew he still had a long way to go. He hadn't reached his dream yet, not even close. But he felt stronger now. His routine was not just about studying or working. It was about building discipline, growing his mind, and preparing for the next big chance. Every day was a small step forward, and step by step, Zaw was becoming something greater than even he realized. Chapter 4. People laugh. But he keeps going. Zaw had changed. He was no longer the quiet boy who sat at the back of the class, afraid to speak. Now he studied hard, asked questions, and helped others. But not everyone supported him. Some people still laughed at his dreams. At school, a few classmates made fun of him. "Look at Zaw with his broken sandals and his old books," one boy said. "He thinks he's going to be a teacher, maybe even a rich man." Others laughed loudly. "Maybe he will fly to London next year," they joked. Zaw heard the laughter. Louder. He felt it in his chest like a sharp pain. At first, it made him sad. He wanted to explain himself, to say, "I'm not better than you. I just want a better life." But he stayed quiet. He had learned something important. You don't have to answer every voice. You just have to keep walking. After class, when others went home to play or sleep, Zaw went to the library. It was small and dusty with only a few English books. But to Z, it was a treasure chest. He sat in the corner, reading with care. His classmates saw him and laughed again. "Why waste your time?" they said. "English won't help you in the village." But Zaw didn't stop, even in the village. Some adults didn't understand. One man said, "Zaw is a good boy, but he is dreaming too big. He should learn farming, not English." Another woman whispered, "He thinks he's smarter than the rest of us." Zaw heard these things, but he remembered his mother's words. "Don't worry about what others say. Worry about what you believe." So he kept going. He kept waking up early to help his father in the fields. He kept walking the long road to school, rain or shine. 15. He kept reading by candlelight when there was no electricity. He kept writing down new words and repeating them until they became part of him. Sometimes he felt lonely. He wished someone would say, "You can do it." But then he looked at his little sister, who still asked him for help with her homework. He looked at his father, who smiled proudly when Zaw shared what he learned in school. And That was enough. One day, a new teacher came to the village school. She was young, kind, and spoke English very well. During class, she noticed Za's hand always in the air. After school, she called him and asked, "Why do you work so hard, Za?" Za looked down for a second, then said quietly, "Because I want to change my life. I want to help my family, and I believe English is my way." The teacher smiled. "That's a beautiful reason," she said. "Keep going. You're on the right path." Her words felt like a light inside him. For the first time, someone outside his family had seen his effort and believed in it. Later, when Za went back to the library, he noticed something different, calmed. One of the boys who used to laugh was sitting nearby, reading a book. Za looked at him, and the boy looked back but said nothing. Maybe he was curious. Maybe deep inside, he also wanted to learn. Za didn't say anything. He just smiled and turned back to his book. Over time, the laughter became less. Some classmates still joked, but others started respecting him. They saw that Za didn't give up, that he didn't care about clothes or money or showing off. He cared about learning, and that was powerful. Za knew that life wouldn't be easy. There would always be people who laughed, who didn't understand, who thought his dreams were foolish. But he also knew something stronger. What you believe matters more than what others say. And so, every time someone doubted him, he worked even harder. Every time someone laughed, he walked forward, because Za had a dream, and no one, not the boys at school, not the gossiping villagers, not the voices of doubt, could stop him. Now, Chapter Wove. Finding a mentor who changed everything. One hot afternoon after school, Za stayed behind to clean the classroom. His classmates had already gone home, but he didn't mind. As he picked up the chalk pieces and wiped the blackboard, the new English teacher, Miss Theory, walked in with a gentle smile. "You're always the last to leave, Za," she said. Zahoff smiled shyly. "I like being here. It's quiet, and I can think." Miss Theory looked at his notebook lying open on the desk. It was filled with English words, grammar notes, and small drawings. To help him remember things, she flipped through the pages and said, "You've taught yourself a lot. That takes real discipline." Za didn't know what to say. No teacher had ever spoken to him like that before. Then she asked a simple question that changed his life. "Would you like me to help you after school?" Za's eyes widened. "Really? You have time?" Miss Theory nodded. "If you're willing to work, I'm willing to guide you." From that day on, Za stayed after class 3 times a week. Miss Theory helped him with pronunciation, sentence building, and reading stories aloud. "Oh, God!" She corrected his mistakes, but always kindly. She gave him new books to read, ones with interesting stories and simple English. She even taught him how to write short essays and letters. But her help wasn't only about English. Miss Theory also taught him how to believe in himself. She often said, Success isn't about being lucky. You know, it's about being ready when the chance comes. Za listened to every word. Her lessons were more than just grammar rules. They were life lessons. She told him stories about her own childhood. She also grew up in a small village. Her parents were farmers just like Za, but she studied hard, received a scholarship, and later became a teacher so she could return to help students like him. Fork, never forget where you come from, she said. But don't let it decide where you're going. Zot began to feel something new inside him. Hope. Before meeting Miss Theory, he thought he had to do everything alone. But now he saw that one kind person could make a big difference. One day, she handed him a flyer. It was an announcement for a youth English camp in the nearby town. It was a weekend event where students from different schools came to learn and practice English together. Loeb. Czar looked at the paper. I've never been to a camp before, he said nervously. And my English, it's not that good yet. Miss Theory smiled. That's why you should go. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be brave. Za asked his parents for permission. At first, they were unsure. The town was far. They didn't have money for the bus. Chaperons. But when they saw how much it meant to him, his mother quietly sold some vegetables she had saved. His father gave him his old bag. Go and learn, they said. Then come back and teach us. The camp was a new world. There were over Worcester students, all speaking English, playing games, and sharing ideas. At first, Za felt nervous and out of place, but he remembered Miss Theory's words. Be brave. So he spoke slowly, carefully, but he spoke. He made mistakes, but no one laughed. In fact, other students clapped for him. A volunteer from Yangon came up to him after a session and said, You have a strong voice. Keep speaking. By the end of the camp, Za had made new friends and, more importantly, new dreams. When he returned to the village, he told Miss Theory everything. I want to join more programs, he said. I want to become a person who helps others like you. She nodded. Then you must keep working and never stop learning. From that point on, Za's learning felt different. He wasn't just studying to escape his struggles. He was learning to grow, to serve, to build something meaningful. He had found a mentor who believed in him, and that belief gave him wings. Keto, Chapter 2. A second chance to prove himself. Za's confidence had grown since the English camp. He was no longer afraid to speak in front of others. His heart still beat fast before he stood up, but now he spoke anyway. He made mistakes, but he kept trying. Each small success gave him more strength. One day at school, Miss Theory made an exciting announcement. Our school has been invited to take part in the regional English speech competition, she said. It's a chance to show what you've learned and meet students from other villages. Za sat up straight. He felt his heart beat faster. A speech competition in English. You don't have to be perfect, Miss Theory continued. You just need to speak with confidence and passion. That evening, Zaw told his parents they didn't fully understand what a speech competition was, but when they saw the light in his eyes, they smiled. Try your best, his father said. We are proud no matter what. Miss Theory helped him choose a topic. After some thought, Zaw decided to speak about dreams. Kang, how even a poor village boy could hope for a better life. The topic was personal. It was his story. Every day after school, he stayed behind to practice. He stood in front of the empty classroom and read his speech out loud, again and again. Miss Theory corrected his pronunciation, taught him how to pause, and showed him how to make eye contact. At night, Zaw practiced at home in front of a small mirror. He watched his face, listened to his voice, and worked to improve. His little sister sat nearby, clapping each time he finished. But not everyone believed in him. You think you're going to win? One classmate said. There are students from big towns with real teachers. You don't stand a chance. Zaw felt the old doubt returning. Maybe they were right. Maybe he wasn't good enough. But then he remembered the camp. He remembered how the other students clapped for him. And he remembered Miss Theory's voice. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be brave. So he kept going. The day of the competition came. Z wore his best clothes, clean but simple. His parents walked him to the edge of the village and waved. Goodbye. Win or lose, his mother said. You are already a winner to us, Paul. The event was held at a large school in the town. Zaw had never seen such a big place. There were over Arsarb students from different villages and towns. Some had fancy clothes, polished accents, and beautiful slides. Zaw had only his voice and his story. When it was his turn, he stepped onto the stage. His hands shook a little, but he took a deep breath. He looked at the judges, then at the audience. He thought of his village, his family, and Miss Theory. And then he began, My name is Zaw. I come from a small village where most people don't speak English. But I believe that dreams can grow anywhere. He spoke from the heart. He shared his story, the struggles, the laughter, the late nights, and the hope. His voice was not loud, but it was full of truth. Core. When he finished, the room was silent for a moment. Then came the applause. After all the speeches were done, the judges announced the results. Aang. Zaw didn't win first place, but he won something more meaningful. The Most Inspiring Speech Award. It wasn't about perfect English. It was about courage, honesty, and effort. He stood on stage, holding the small certificate in his hands. His heart was full. He had proved something, not just to others, but to himself. When he returned to the village, Miss Theory met him at the school gate. You did it, she said with a proud smile. Zaw nodded. I didn't win the competition, but I won a second chance to believe in myself. Chapter Chi. The Day of Truth. It was the night before the big exam. Zaw sat at his small wooden table, the one his father had built long ago. His lamp flickered slightly, but he didn't notice. His eyes were focused on his notebook. He had been studying for this test for months. The national exam that could decide his future. If he passed, he could apply for a scholarship and go to a better school in the city. But if he failed, he would have to stay behind, helping on the farm like before. There was no second chance this time. He closed his book and looked up at the moon outside. The village was quiet. Everyone else was asleep, but he couldn't rest. Yet, his heart was full of thoughts. Have I done enough? He asked himself. What if I forget everything tomorrow? He remembered Miss Theory's words. Don't fear the result. Trust your effort. Taking a deep breath, he finally closed his books and went to bed, but sleep didn't come easily. His mind kept repeating formulas, grammar rules, and essay ideas. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the fields. Zaw got up early, washed his face, and wore his clean school uniform. His mother handed him a small bag with snacks, and his father gave him a strong pat on the back. No words were needed. Their eyes said everything. We believe in you. The exam center was in a nearby town. Zaw rode there on the back of an old truck with other students. No one spoke much. Everyone was nervous. The air was filled with tension. When they arrived, students lined up outside a large school building. Some were reviewing notes. Others were whispering to themselves. Kim? Zaw stood quietly, eyes closed, trying to calm his racing heart. A bell rang. It was time. Inside the exam room, the air was cool. Rows of desks stood like soldiers. Zaw found his seat and sat down. The invigilator walked in with a serious face and handed out the papers. Do not open the test until I say, she instructed. Phone. Z stared at the closed paper in front of him. His hands were slightly sweaty. His legs felt heavy. He whispered a small prayer in his heart, not for luck, but for focus. Begin. He opened the test. The first page was English, his favorite. He smiled slightly and started writing. Vocabulary, grammar, reading and comprehension, he answered carefully. One question at a time. The next part was math, not his strongest subject, but he had practiced every night. When he got stuck on a problem, he closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and remembered what Miss Theory had taught him. Don't panic. Think slowly. Hour after hour passed. His hand hurt from writing. His eyes felt tired, but he kept going. Then came the final part. The essay. He had to write about a personal goal. His heart jumped. It was the perfect topic. He wrote about his dream of becoming a teacher one day. He described how he wanted to help students in poor villages, just like Miss Theory had helped him. But his words were simple but full of meaning. When the final bell rang, he put down his pen. It was over. He walked out of the room feeling light and heavy at the same time. Some students looked happy, others looked worried. Zaw didn't know how to feel. He had done his best, but still, doubt whispered in the back of his mind. On the way back to the village, he looked out at the passing trees and rice fields. Everything looked the same, but inside he felt different. He had faced his fear. He had given it everything he had. At home, his parents welcomed him with warm smiles and a hot meal. His little sister hugged him tightly. "Did you win?" she asked. Zaw smiled. "I don't know yet. But I didn't give up. That's what matters." That night, for the first time in many weeks, he slept peacefully. Peacefully. He had faced the day of truth, and he had walked through it with courage. Chapter Ba. Success after struggle. Weeks passed after the exam. Zaw returned to his daily life, helping his father in the fields, feeding the chickens, and walking his sister to school. But something was different now. He had faced his fear. He had finished the exam with full effort. Still, deep in his heart, he waited for the result. Each day he walked past the school notice board, hoping the results had arrived. Some of his classmates were confident, others looked worried. Zaw said nothing. Kanked. He kept working, kept studying, kept believing. Then one morning, Miss Theory stood outside the classroom with a paper in her hand and a wide smile on her face. "The exam results are here," she said. All the students ran to the board. Zaw's heart pounded. He didn't want to look. What if he had failed? What if all the work meant nothing? But then Miss Theory touched his shoulder. "Zaha," she said softly. "You did it. You passed with one of the highest scores in the region." Zaw's mouth opened in shock. He couldn't speak. His hands began to shake as he read his name beside the words top. Bai Fenju. Wu, eligible for scholarship interview. He had done it. The class clapped for him. Even the students who had once laughed at him smiled and gave him a thumbs up. "Now, well done, Zaw," one said. "You really worked hard." Zaw felt a warm pride rise inside him. Not because he wanted to show off, but because this success had come from pain, sacrifice, and effort. He remembered the nights with the flickering lamp, the mornings in the cold field, and the moments of doubt. It had all led to this. When he got home, his mother saw the expression on his face. She didn't need to ask. She hugged him tightly. "I knew you would make us proud," she whispered. His father, a man of few words, gave a strong nod. "You've done well, son. You've opened a door for yourself." The news spread quickly through the village. People who once ignored Zaw now greeted him with respect. "You're the boy who passed the national exam, right?" a shopkeeper asked. "We heard you're getting a scholarship," said the headman. "You're going places." Zaw felt shy with all the attention, but deep down he felt something stronger. Hope. If he could do this, what else could he achieve? A few days later, he received a letter from the scholarship office. He was invited to the city for an interview. Miss Theory helped him prepare. They practiced questions, reviewed his answers, and chose his best clothes. Before he left, she gave him a small notebook. Write your story, she said. One day it might inspire others. In the city, everything felt big and new. Tall buildings, noisy traffic, and bright lights. But Za stayed calm. He walked into the interview room with confidence. The interviewers asked him many questions about his goals, his family, his challenges. "Why do you want this scholarship?" one of them asked. Za looked them in the eyes and answered, "Because I want to become a teacher and help students like me. I believe every child, even in the poorest village, deserves a chance to dream." There was silence. Then the interviewer smiled. "Treeks en befond threeten sruide wa." A week later, the final letter arrived. Za had been chosen. He was going to the best school in the region. All expenses paid. Books, housing, food, everything was covered. Za held the letter in his hands and cried. Not tears of sadness, but of deep, quiet joy. He stood outside his house and looked up at the sky. The stars seemed brighter. The wind felt softer. He whispered to himself, "This is only the beginning." Chapter Joel. Giving back to the community. Z stepped off the bus and looked around at the village where he had grown up. The dusty roads, the green rice fields, and the small wooden houses all looked the same. But he had changed. After finishing his first year at the new school in the city, he had come back home for the holidays. His bag was full of books, and his heart was full of new ideas. He had learned so much in just 1 year. But now he wanted to do something more. He wanted to give back. The first thing he did was visit his old school, Kodak. The building still had broken windows. The desks were still scratched and old, but the classroom was full of bright young faces, just like his once was. The children looked at him with wide eyes. They had heard the stories. The boy from the village who passed the exam, the one who got a scholarship. Miss Theory welcomed him with a smile. "The children look up to you now," she said. "They need someone like you." Za didn't hesitate. "Can I help teach them during my break?" he asked. So every morning, Za returned to the classroom. Not as a student, but as a helper. He taught English, helped with math, and even shared tips on how to study. He told the students stories of the city, of the school where he now studied, and hard work had brought him, and how hard work had brought him there. The students listened closely. They started trying harder. They asked more questions. They stayed after class for help. One little boy said, "I want to be like you, Koza." Za smiled. "You can. You just have to believe and work hard." But Z didn't stop at the school. In the afternoons, he helped his parents on the farm. He repaired the broken fence and helped his mother carry water. He even showed his father a new way to grow vegetables that he had learned in a science class. In the evenings, he organized a small study group at the village monastery. Children and teenagers came with their books. Some of them had no electricity at home, so Za brought candles and helped them study under the soft, flickering light. At first, only a few kids came, but soon more joined. The room was full of laughter, learning, and hope. Even the village elders noticed. One of them said, "He left to learn, but he came back to teach." Za felt proud, but not for himself, for his village, for his people. He knew he was not the only one with dreams. Round. Many children had the same fire in their hearts. But they needed someone to light the way. One day, Z gathered the children under a tree and gave a small talk. "I was just like you," he said. "I had no special gifts. I was poor. I failed once, but I didn't give up, and now I'm learning in a place I never thought I'd reach. You can do the same. Start small. Keep going, and one day you'll fly." The children clapped. Some even cried. Parents began to thank Zaw. One mother said, "My son never cared about school before, but now he studies every night. Thank you for waking up his dream." Zaw felt something deep inside. It was more than happiness. It was purpose. He knew now that success was not only about going far. It was also about coming back and lifting others. Before he returned to the city, the villagers gathered to give him a simple gift, a wooden pen holder made from a local tree. On it they had carved a few words. For the one who came back with light. Zaw held it in his hands and promised himself, "No matter where I go, I will always return. I will always help." His journey had started with a dream. Now it had become something greater, a mission to change lives. One child at a time. Chapter Jur. The real meaning of success. Reflect on what he learned. Success is not money or fame. It's growth, belief, and helping others. Years passed. Z had finished school, become a teacher, and even written a small book about his life. People in other villages knew his name. Some students traveled long distances just to study in his classroom. His old school had grown too. It had more books, better chairs, and brighter students. But even as life changed, Za stayed simple. He still lived in the village. He still helped his parents in the garden. He still walked to school every morning with a smile. One evening, after a long day of teaching, Za sat alone outside his small home. The stars shone brightly above. The air was quiet, and the only sound was the soft wind moving through the trees. He looked up at the sky and began to think. What is success? He asked himself. When he was young, he thought success meant escaping the village, becoming rich, or living in the city. He thought success was big houses, shiny cars, and being famous. But now, after everything he had lived, he understood something different. Success was not about money or power. It was about growth. How far he had come from the scared boy who once failed. It was about belief. How he kept going when everyone laughed. And most of all, it was about helping others, lifting others up, so they too could chase their dreams. He remembered the young boys and girls who now filled his classroom. Some had no shoes, some came hungry, but their eyes were full of dreams. Za saw himself in them, and when they smiled or understood a new word, it felt like magic. That, he thought, was real success. One day, a news reporter came to visit the school. She had heard about the teacher from the village who had inspired hundreds of students. Do you feel successful now? She asked. Za smiled gently. Yes, he said, but not because of what I have. I feel successful because I never gave up. Korot, because I helped others, and because I wake up each day with purpose. The reporter nodded. What advice would you give young people? Za thought for a moment and then said, believe in yourself, even when no one else does. Work hard, be kind, and remember, success is not something you take, it's something you give. After she left, Za walked back to the classroom. The children ran to him, laughing and calling, Teacher! Teacher! Liu. He laughed with them and picked up a piece of chalk and was about to begin, but inside he knew the most important lesson was already written. Not on the board, but in his life. Success is not a destination. It's the journey. It's becoming better than you were yesterday. It's lifting others as you rise. It's staying true to who you are, no matter how far you go. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by smiling children and a simple village, Za felt something he would never forget. He had truly succeeded. Thank you so much for watching and listening today. I hope you enjoyed the story and found it helpful for your English practice. Remember, improving your English takes time and patience. Inkschreik. Mourned. But every word you read and every sentence you listen to brings you closer to your goal. If you like this video, feel free to watch it again or practice speaking along with the story. Repeating and listening multiple times can really help you. Remember new words and improve your pronunciation. You can also try writing your own sentences or telling the story in your own words. That is a great way to build confidence. Learning a new language is not always easy, but it is very rewarding. Stories like this one not only help you improve your skills, but also teach important lessons about life and success. Keep believing in yourself and keep practicing every day. Small steps make big changes. If you want to keep learning, I have many more videos with interesting stories and useful English lessons. So, be sure to check them out and continue your journey. Your hard work will pay off. Thank you again for spending time with me today. I am proud of you for choosing to learn and grow. Keep practicing, stay motivated, and never give up. English is a skill you can master, and I'm here to help you along the way. Have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye for now, and keep learning.